Hi everyone, I'm Pau Franco, Assistant Professor of Marketing at Radboud University in the Netherlands. Joining me here today to share his experiences with us in starting his own business is Luke Horse, co-founder of Gawk Outdoor. Gawk Outdoor is an outdoor advertising company that specializes in billboards and is based out of regional Victoria in Australia. Since its founding in January 2018, the company has seen successful growth, doubling its revenue every year with a lot more exponential growth to come. As a quick intro to Luke's background, after completing a marketing degree, he packed his bags and moved from Melbourne to Los Angeles to work in private equity. After about 18 months, he worked his way into a role to launch the Sydney office of American company Landmark Dividend, a real estate and infrastructure acquisition company. After helping the Sydney office build a team of 12 and complete over $75 million in transactions in over 4 years, Luke set his sights on a new challenge. That is, to develop and start his own business. And these experiences of building his own business are what we'll ask Luke about today. So, Luke, first off, thank you for generously spending some time with us today to answer some questions and share with us your experiences. So, let me start with my first question. Can you tell me a little bit about Gawk Outdoor?
Thanks, Pal, and appreciate you having me. A little bit about Gawk. So we're an outdoor advertising business with billboards across regional Victoria. So we mainly stick to regional areas, and we have a mixture of static and digital billboards all across those areas. We manage that really from start to finish, all the way from finding new sites, getting them approved by local councils, getting them built, and then ultimately selling the advertising space. So we're up to close to 50 locations across regional Victoria at the moment, and trying to probably hit close to 100 within a couple of years.
And what drove you to start Gawk Outdoor?
I think I always wanted to do something on my own. So I'd done 4 or 5 years in the corporate world and learnt an enormous amount. It was something that I certainly wanted my own business, and I'd also worked with my brother James at various stages in previous jobs. So for us, it was a good opportunity to utilize both of our skills in an industry that suited them. So he'd come from an architecture and a town planning background. I'd come from sort of a finance and real estate background and had a little bit of experience in outdoor advertising. So it was mainly an opportunity, I think, for the two of us to work together more than I certainly didn't grow up dreaming of billboards or telling my high school teachers that I wanted to work in outdoor advertising. So for us, it was more of an opportunity to work together and do our own thing in something that suited our skill sets and what we enjoy.
So, what were your early experiences of starting Gawk Outdoor?
Yeah, there's certainly plenty. I was living in Sydney and working out of my spare bedroom and coming down to Victoria every 2 or 3 weeks to drive around and trying to find some billboard sites. I think you always overestimate how much you actually know. We came into it thinking we probably knew 80% of the business and I needed to learn the other 20, and it was probably the inverse of that, I think, retrospectively. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time out on the road. We'd go away for 3-4 days at a time on a very, very tight budget. It's amazing how your view of business expenses changes when it's your own money versus someone else's. So we had many $70-$80 a night motels and caravan parks and cheap dinners. But yeah, we learned a lot along the way, and we made a few little mistakes, but just made sure that we didn't make any bets that were big enough that if we had a mistake, it would be an issue.
And I think that's a good segue to my next question. So, what have been some key challenges during your time building Gawk Outdoor?
Yeah, I think like the last 18 months, when we were about 3 years into the business when COVID hit, and yeah, that was certainly an enormous challenge to deal with. For us, there was no cars on the road because everyone was in lockdown. So we had our revenue dried up pretty quickly, and it was really daunting. There was probably about a month there where we were always confident that we'd get through and see the other side. But when you put so much hard work and sacrifice into the first 2 or 3 years, there were some enormous challenges when your revenue essentially dries up overnight. And we were really, really fortunate that we had a lot of really supportive people around us, particularly for us. Like we have, at that time, we had about 30 different landlords who we leased property from with our billboards. And many of them were calling us and telling us not to worry about paying rent for the 3 or 4 months. Others, we were asking for a small reduction, and they were offering much bigger reductions. And the amount of support from them in particular just made it all so much easier for us to get through. It was really about a 3 or 4 month period in Victoria where things were pretty hard. And I think, that probably the next challenge we had was coming out of that. We continued to grow and build new sites. And then we got through to October, November, where things started really bouncing back. And we pretty quickly realized that we weren't really equipped to deal with the size the business had gotten to, because we kept on building all these sites, and suddenly the demand for these billboards went crazy, and it was still really just James and I. And we pretty quickly realized we needed to build a team around us, and have others that could really contribute to the business, which we've really spent the last 6 or 9 months focusing on. And we've got a really great team around us now. So we've got 3 or 4 other people in the team aside from James and I. And but that was certainly a challenge when suddenly it's not just the 2 of us, and you just have everything in your head, and you have to systemize things and make sure that others can come on and take on aspects of the business. So that's something we've really worked towards, and we've made really good strides there.
And again, I think that's a great segue to my next question. So what are you most proud of when reflecting on your journey of building Gawk Outdoor?
Yeah, it's obviously a great question. I think for us, most of it is about the relationships that we build with a whole variety of different people. So we have some suppliers like the company that builds all of our billboards, to the company that installs most of our billboards, to all of our landlords and clients and all these people. And I think for us, when we reflect upon this in 10 years or 20 years, that's probably the best part of it, is some of these, really incredible people that you meet. They all have their own story. I think you can learn from every one of them. And I think for me, I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts and things like that. And there's probably not enough attention that gets paid to some of these people that have built businesses over 30 or 40 years. And they might own 5 car dealerships or 5 McDonald's stores. And I think, if someone has a startup with an app or something like this, there's articles everywhere. They've got 20 interviews on podcasts, and there's a lot of people with some great businesses and some great stories that probably don't get the airtime they deserve. So for us, we've been very lucky to meet a lot of them. And I think the relationships with a lot of those people are probably one of the things that I'm most proud of.
And for my last question, what advice would you give to students who are interested in entrepreneurship and starting their own businesses?
Yeah, I don't think there's any kind of catch-all advice. I think for us, we're always really prepared to make mistakes. And a lot of people, when I was first getting into the corporate world, I think passed on that advice. And so long as you're not putting yourself in a position where you're risking everything and one mistake could really cost you, I think we've learned a lot more from little mistakes we've made along the way than the successes. So I think being prepared to make mistakes and having the mindset that when you do make a mistake, it's just a great learning experience, and not getting caught up in that outcome. I think that's certainly something that we focus on. And I think is really powerful. Maybe, and I think the only other thing that it was always really drilled into me growing up that you should do something that you love, and whatever you love, you'll be really good at it, and you'll make more money doing something that you really love. And I think that's true, but people often confuse maybe hobbies with what they with what they actually really enjoy doing. So for us, I love all the aspects of what I get to do day to day. I get to work with my brother. I spend 3 or 4 days a week out on the road in regional Victoria. I meet some really great people. I get to go to country horse racing meets for work and develop really good relationships at a lot of those events. So for me, it's not billboards. I don't dream about billboards, but it's all the things that come along with that. So I think, there's things that I like more than billboards that are great hobbies, but I think people need to think about when they're thinking about what they love, it's all those little aspects, not necessarily an industry or one single job.
I think that's some great advice that our students can learn from. So, Luke, thank you for your time today and for joining me for a quick interview to share with us your experiences. And all the best with Gawk Outdoor, hoping it goes from strength to strength and continues to do so.
Thanks a lot, Pal. Thanks for having me.